There is not one thing that mitigates this sentence, not one. He deserves the absolute maximum sentence on all counts consecutive. Look, Judge, you saw the videos. This wasn't him plowing in to one large group of 50 people at one point in time and hitting them. It was linear. He hit one, kept going. Hit two, kept going. Hit three, kept going. All the way down the street. That's consecutive sentences, Your Honor. That's intentional, willful, volitional conduct that warrants consecutive sentences stacked one on top of the other, just as he stacked victims up as he drove down the road in complete disregard for any other person whatsoever. We kept the kids out of the courtroom in the trial, Judge, but boy, it's impactful to listen to them today and realize this isn't just, victim GG. This is a child that you willfully ran over with a 3,000-pound vehicle, as so many people so adeptly observed. Police officers, first responders, the medical professionals. It's kind of weird, Judge, because we're coming up on the anniversary, of course, and we're coming up on the weekend before Thanksgiving, which is a weekend that a lot of people pay attention to on the calendar because here in good old Wisconsin, it's deer hunting season. It's a lot of families going out, starting their Christmas activities, Christmas festivities, Christmas shopping, whatever it is. So it's kind of that kind of a weekend that comes around every year that on its own, it's not a holiday, it's not really a known day, but we all know that first weekend before Thanksgiving and what it brings. We all look forward to maybe a short work week, spending time with family, getting together, and here it comes, and it's the anniversary of this attack at the hands of Darrell Brooks. But we're going to have an ability to move on from that. We have the ability, we have the tools as a community, Your Honor, to do that. And that's definitely because of everyone that responded to this incident, the first responders, the police officers, the medical personnel that got paged in on a Sunday night when we're all hunkered down, Packers had played, it's cold, it's dark, and they all had to spring into action and respond. And there were law enforcement from all over southeastern Wisconsin, fire department, EMTs. No one paused, no one hesitated for a second. They just came and helped. And I think that's something that our families, our community can build on as well, Your Honor, to say evil is easily overcome here. Darrell Brooks deserved to be locked up for the rest of his life. He cannot be trusted ever, ever again. I ask you to consider, I'm not going to go into it, but we had filed the other act's evidence, some of the language in that other act's evidence, the intimidation of the victim. It played out repeatedly in this courtroom. He tried to intimidate you. He tried to intimidate me. He tried to intimidate the witnesses. He tries and tries and tries, but he fails. He's not the strongest person in the courtroom. He's the weakest person in the courtroom. Morally bankrupt. That's what he is. His character is void. I asked Attorney Basie, what's the word I can use for low character, and then we came up with the fact he really has no character. It's one of the factors the court needs to consider. Protection of the public, the severity of the crime, they all weigh heavily in a stacked sentence, Your Honor, consecutive maximum across the board. Every one of these victims deserves that. I don't know how we look at any of these victims and say, well, he got concurrent time on your case because your pain and suffering wasn't quite as bad as the guy before you or the girl before you. They all deserve that sentence that speaks to their count. The restitution, Your Honor, I filed the paperwork. We are seeking restitution in the dollar amounts from my letter that we reviewed this morning. I'm asking under 97320 sub 11 sub F that you enter an order that the Department of Corrections shall keep 50% of any wages Mr. Brooks may earn in prison, and any monies that may be paid on his books or canteen account, and direct those monies to be paid directly towards restitution. He should not be able to work or receive canteen without paying down that restitution. I also included in my letter the request that should any monies ever be paid by contract to Mr. Brooks, that he should attempt to benefit financially from these crimes, that those monies would be placed into an escrow account maintained by the Department of Justice and paid towards the restitution. The restitution in this case is ridiculously low when you consider it, and that's again because of the generosity of good people all over the world that contributed to a community fund, and other individuals who generously donated to help these families pay for funerals and medical expenses and things like that. Can you imagine when you heard these mothers describing what their children have been through? Can you imagine the medical bills on these? And he's lucky he's getting off with a $200,000 bill for restitution, Your Honor. I think he should have to pay every last penny of it. I also wanted to wrap up again, Your Honor, by saying you didn't hear from all the victims. Certainly, there were some that just cannot bring themselves to this court in any fashion, in any way. And we ask you to keep them in mind as well, especially the Bill Hospital family. Bill was, walking in support of his wife's team and trying to be in a supportive role, as he had done on many other occasions, and lost his life for that simple action, that simple act of good that he participated in. There were some groups that are not represented here today, but I know you heard their story at trial, and you're aware of what some of them went through that maybe wasn't specifically addressed here today, but I just ask you to keep in mind that we certainly presented a wide array of victims to you, but not everyone. And then certainly, as I mentioned at the outset, the community as a whole absolutely demands justice for these victims, these families, and for the community itself. That Darrell Brooks has no redeeming value, Your Honor.